They called it the most dangerous place on earth. A terrorist hotspot. A failed state factory. A graveyard of foreign interventions and broken promises. The Sahel, that vast stretch of land between the Sahara and the African savanna, had become synonymous with chaos, extremism, and everything the world feared about Africa. But here's the thing about labels. They're designed to make you stop looking deeper. What if I told you that beneath all that carefully crafted narrative of terrorism and instability, something extraordinary was happening? What if the most dangerous place on earth was actually becoming the birthplace of something that could change everything? So they did something radical. They stopped believing the story the world was telling about them, and started writing their own. This is that story. How the most dangerous place on earth became the most hopeful. How 3 nations decided sovereignty wasn't a gift to be granted, but a right to be seized. But first, we need to understand how we got here. The beginning of this story before we jump to the end. Welcome to the Sahel, where unity is forged in internal flame and blood, with the kind of determination that comes from having nothing left to lose, except exploitation and endless loss of life. The Sahel Heist. How Western corporations exploit fear to strip Africa's wealth. Part 1. The perfect crime scene. Aminata clutches her 3-year-old daughter closer as the motorcycle engines grow louder. The sound means one thing in northern Niger's Tillaberi region: armed men are coming. But these aren't the jihadists everyone fears. These are the security contractors, working for mining companies, clearing villages for the next extraction operation. What's happening in the Sahel isn't random violence. It's a calculated heist spanning multiple countries, orchestrated by Western corporations using a playbook perfected over decades. The target? One of the world's richest geological zones, sitting beneath some of its poorest people. The geological scandal. The Sahel's underground wealth reads like a corporate wish list: uranium for nuclear reactors, lithium for electric car batteries, gold for global markets, and rare earth elements essential for artificial intelligence systems. Niger alone supplies uranium to French nuclear plants. Mali potentially holds one of the world's largest lithium reserves. Burkina Faso's gold mines generate billions in revenue, none of which reaches local communities. Mining executives call the region a geological scandal because of its extraordinary mineral diversity. But the real scandal is how these resources are extracted while leaving entire populations in poverty. Over 38 million people in the Sahel face food insecurity while their land produces minerals worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Manufacturing the bogeyman. The formula is deceptively simple: create chaos, offer security, extract resources. Since 2011's Libyan intervention, the West African region has never known stability. Military coups in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. Rising insurgencies. Failed harvests. Displaced populations. Each crisis creates the perfect cover for resource extraction. French military aircraft didn't bomb Libya to protect civilians. They secured Western corporate control over North African resources and opened corridors into the Sahel. The aftermath speaks for itself. Libya collapsed, weapons flooded the region, and armed groups proliferated exactly where the richest mineral deposits lay buried. Mining companies started acquiring exploration licenses in the Sahel almost immediately after the 2011 intervention. Over 150 mining licenses were hastily distributed across Niger alone between 1995 to 96, many to companies that existed only on paper. The timing reveals the strategy: destabilize the region, then extract its wealth while populations struggle to survive. The junior mining scam. Here's where critics allege the scheme gets sophisticated. According to investigative reports, major mining corporations don't directly extract resources. They allegedly use junior mining companies as fronts. These are described as penny stock operations listed on Canadian exchanges, reportedly often with minimal staff, limited physical presence, and shareholders that some sources claim are registered in tax havens. For years, the Toronto Stock Exchange has been reported as the global epicenter for resource extraction schemes targeting Africa. Junior companies secure strategic mining concessions from African governments, then immediately sell these rights to major corporations at massive profits. Not a single dollar gets invested in actual mining, just kickbacks to speed up permit approvals. Savannah Energy plc, a UK-based independent energy company, exemplifies this model according to reports. It is reported that the company sparked a diplomatic crisis between Cameroon and Chad over oil assets, with operations that have extracted millions in resources while allegedly contributing to regional instability. These firms exist solely to separate mineral wealth from the countries that contain it. The human cost. While executives trade mining rights like poker chips, real people pay the price. Fatima, a widow from northern Mali, describes how armed groups allegedly burned her village after her husband refused to guide them to local gold deposits. She fled with her 4 children to a displacement camp where international aid organizations documented her story, then reportedly used it to justify increased military spending in the region. The camps themselves have become part of the extraction infrastructure. The refugee camps around Niger's Abla town house over 37,000 displaced people, but these camps sit directly above uranium deposits that French company Orano has allegedly targeted for extraction. The humanitarian crisis provides perfect justification for maintaining permanent international presence in a strategically valuable location. Women and children suffer disproportionately. In areas reportedly controlled by Islamic State's Sahel province, women face strict confinement rules that prevent them from earning income. Girls are pulled from school and married young. These aren't random cultural practices. They're systematic methods of social control that allegedly benefit extraction operations by eliminating organized resistance. The terrorism economy. The relationship between mining companies and armed groups is more complex than news reports suggest. While publicly condemning terrorism, mining operations often allegedly coexist with militants who control territory around extraction sites. Companies reportedly pay security fees to multiple armed groups, sometimes simultaneously funding both sides of conflicts. Some observers believe abductions and continuous unrest serve multiple purposes. They terrorize communities into submission, allegedly provide forced labor for mining operations, and justify increased military spending that reportedly benefits defense contractors working with mining companies. Local gold mines offer higher wages than government operations, making them attractive to civilians while providing recruitment grounds for armed groups. The violence that justifies international intervention also creates the labor conditions that make extraction profitable. The humanitarian shield. A belief is crystallizing across divided lines of evidence and allegiance. What some brand as conspiracy, others recognize as an ancient pattern, oppression masked as assistance, pilfering disguised as partnership, all feeding the relentless machinery of profit. Critics allege that international aid organizations serve as the perfect cover for resource extraction. Aid workers reportedly map population centers, document resource availability, and establish supply chains that mining companies later allegedly use for their operations. The same helicopters that deliver humanitarian assistance reportedly conduct geological surveys. Some observers claim that Médecins Sans Frontières operates clinics in mining areas while corporate geologists map mineral deposits. Critics argue that World Food Programme establishes distribution networks that allegedly become logistics infrastructure for extraction operations. These aren't collaborations, they're what some describe as systematic infiltration of humanitarian systems. According to this perspective, the humanitarian crisis intensifies extraction opportunities. Displaced populations reportedly provide cheap labor for mining operations, while their desperation allegedly makes them vulnerable to recruitment by armed groups, which mining companies then use to justify hiring private security contractors.